Hi everybody, this is Leah at Fresh Astrology. How are you doing in this eclipse season? So we're coming up on an eclipse in a couple of days, but it's really happening, the themes and the feelings are happening now. They will, you'll kind of understand what's going on for you this week. What are the tensions, what's changing, what decisions are you making? Um, and into next week as well. And eclipses really do kind of roll forward for quite some time. It depends on, of course, what the themes are in your life as to how big they are. Um, but they're decisions you're making, changes you're making or not. Sometimes the decision is not to make a decision and not to make a change. And so, for those of you out there saying, I don't have any changes I'm making, I'm not making any big decisions, they're probably invisibly being made for you somehow. There are things that will change in your life as a result of not making a decision, not making a change. There will be consequences that will roll forward at least 6 months, at least. Um, Most decisions we make are with us for life, so you can argue that it goes well beyond 6 months, but certainly the next 6 months the impact is higher. Um, I would say the way this eclipse feels to me, it's dynamic. We've got the Leo quality, uh, but it feels a little heavier. One of my friends kind of describes just feeling heavy, like there's a heaviness emotionally for her. And when she said that, I was thinking, oh yeah, that kind of fits the feeling. There's a heaviness. So maybe we know there are things coming up around the corner, or maybe we see things happening around us to other people, and we feel for them. And so there's this heaviness to what we're feeling. So the heaviness may not have to do with us personally. Um, it could be that we see around us a lot of things where we think, oh, that feels heavy. If somebody's getting a divorce or somebody's sick, somebody's in the hospital, it may not be us, but we feel that heaviness. And it could be, in certain, depending on how your chart is, there are indicators that can show it's more likely to be you who's sick or someone else. And it could be that some of and if you feel that quote unquote heaviness, it may feel different to you. You might describe it differently. It may be about other people, not maybe your life is fine. But still and yet, I would say, don't be so focused on the other, what's happening outside of you, that you forget what's happening for you and what needs to happen for you. You know, Sometimes when we're really focused on other people, that's the time we need to really, even more so, be focused on our own self-care. What are we doing to support ourselves? I would say, regardless of whether something's happening to someone else and you feel that, or something's happening to you, I would say the bigger message for this particular eclipse is self-care. What are you doing to take care of yourself? I'm like asking. You can comment below if you want to share how you take care of yourself so others can see what you do. They might, learn something from what you do. What I'm doing, I would love those of you who feel like you want to come join our tribe. We have a private Facebook group, and I would love anybody to join us there. You have to first go to our website and register there, but then once you're in that group if you choose to join it. But I was telling that group in a Facebook Live that um, I have had two major knee surgeries in my lifetime, and so because the first one was it was on my 10th birthday, um, it impacted much of my childhood, my teen years, and really my whole life. And then the second one was in my mid 40s, and so much more recent. And um, because I had this ongoing knee issue. I had a subluxing patella, if you know what that is. It just made my knee unstable, and so there were certain kinds of exercises I could do. But running was always hard for me once that issue started when I was 9 years old. And, kids love to run. It's natural to run. I loved running. I loved ice skating and skiing and all kinds of things, and it just became much. I could still do some of those things afterward, but running was always a bit elusive. And so now that I've had my second surgery, I've been trying, every so often I'll start to try to run again. And again, meaning like since I was 8, like when I could run. But because the last time I really ran any distance with any kind of speed or consistency was when I was 8 and younger. I have a child. It's interesting, the mentality of it. I think I had a child's notion of running because what I discovered only in this last week, so it's definitely around the eclipse, is that all the times before now, since my most recent operation that I've tried to run, I was sprinting. Because that's how a child runs. A child just goes for it. They just run full on. There's no like monitoring their speed and modulating their speed. A child just goes, they're just pell-mell, down the hill and across, a field. And that's how I was jogging. I was jogging at full speed. And the weird thing was I couldn't see it, which is so funny. I'm a grown woman. I've got kids. I know a lot. And I couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that I was actually running full speed. I thought I was actually trying to slow myself down, but I was still really like sprinting. And so that's why before I could never run as far as I wanted to run, because I would be, feeling what you feel when you're sprinting for several hundred yards. And I would be thinking, how do other people do this? How on earth do other people do this? I don't know, because I see people in worse physical shape than me managing to do this and building up to a mile and then 2 miles and 5 miles, and then sometimes they go on to half marathons. Why can't I do it? I'm, in reasonable shape, and I'm reasonably strong. Why can't I do this? And it was only the other night, so between these two eclipses, so between the one we just had in the middle of July and this one, and then we'll have another one in August. One big change happening for me is I finally understood. I got out. I had a lot of extra energy one night. So I'm trying to explain. The reason I tell you personal stories is so that you understand, like, how this can go, how subtle it can be, how it can seem unrelated to something dramatic. But in a way, this was very dramatic for me. But it may seem funny to you, like if you're a natural runner or you just don't get having knee surgery, what that's like. Anyway, and just the what happens to your mind when you've been inhibited somehow physically, what happens to the mind, and how you have to unlock that. But anyway, I had a lot of energy one night, and I'm like, I just want to go try. I kind of want to go out and I want to try to run because it had cooled off. And so I think because it was dark and nobody could see me, I think I allowed myself to go so slow it felt like a snail's pace. It was an actual jog, because some of my friends were like, oh, it was like fast walking. I'm like, no, it was a jog. But what's unique is it showed me, by understanding what it felt like to do this incredibly slow jog that felt like I was practically, moving backward. But it was still a jog. Because it felt that slow, I could in my body feel and remember how fast I'd been running all those other times. Like I got it because my body had that knowledge of, and the memory of all the other times I'd tried to run and how much faster it was. Because I was going at this very slow pace and I was thinking, well, this is easy. And I was surprised. I'm like, I'm not breathing, I'm definitely running, my heart rate is up, but it's entirely manageable. It's way easier than a spinning class. It's way easier than a flow yoga class, even. And I was just shocked. I was shocked at how easy it was. And I actually ran a mile, which is what I had been trying to do all these other times I'd started. But after a few hundred yards, I was just beat because I was sprinting for my life. But not understanding that. So I tell you this long story, first of all, because I'm very excited about it, but also, this is a type of self care for me. It's a type of interesting self care, and it's interesting that I was finally able to get it between these two eclipses. So, why now? Why this timing? Is what I want to point out to you. So, you may think there are things that maybe aren't related to the eclipse. People are usually looking for something big, usually something they want. People have these kind of lists like, I want to get I want to date somebody. I want to get married. I want to have a child. I want like the big things, the huge things that we put out there as our goals. And often people with these eclipses are either scared of really big things or wanting really big things to happen. And often that's not what the eclipse is about. And so for me, there are many themes going on. There are lots of themes and lots of layers to it, as there will be in your life too. Even people around me going through some tougher things that do feel heavy. So, in addition to that, I have my own stuff going on many different levels, with my family, and uh, I'm moving. So, uh, all these things just are playing into the eclipse. So I think, the ending piece of this next one will be me moving and ending living in one particular place. So be looking at beginnings and endings, revelations, things that have come to light, things that they may seem small, they may seem big, but they're changing in your life. Look for those things. And I think with all moon activity, you just want to start to learn about yourself and see how it does impact the flow of your life, and start to understand how different moons make you feel inside. So, the word for you might not be heaviness. It may be something radically different. But notice what word, if you had to attach one word to this eclipse in the lead up to it, how are you feeling? Are you feeling anticipatory? Is something feeling ominous? Do you feel disappointed? What are you feeling if you had to tie it to one word? And maybe write it in, let people know, and also let people know what kind of self care you're doing. So for me, I'm trying to keep up, try to do daily at least 1 mile, going very, very slow. Because for me, that's a huge achievement. To run very slow is actually the achievement. That's actually the gold. That's the key that unlocks it. So sometimes, you know, in our money course and some of the teachings we do over in the tribe stuff that I do, the life coaching, we're teaching about the principle of reducing things to their most manageable elements, the most doable elements, and that's where success lies. That's how you act, that's the keys to the kingdom. And it's very counterintuitive for people. So for me, the success is actually learning to run very, very slowly. What feels almost agonizingly slow is the keys to the kingdom for me, because I can finally run. And so for me, for now, I'm just going to run a mile. I don't want to stress out my body. I don't want to stress out my knees or anything, although they're handling it pretty well. But um, so look at your self-care. Is there some goal you've had with self-care that seems hard to do, hard to fit into your day? In my money course through Tribe, I tell a story about my 5 minute yoga routine, which again is not going to impress anybody. My running speed's not going to impress anybody, but those two things, the 5 minute yoga routine and the running incredibly slow, are the keys to the kingdom for fitness for me. So try to see, if you do have bigger goals and you're not able to go after them, can you reduce it down? How far down can you reduce it to make it manageable? All right, take care.